out of the school. Well, I couldn't improve, so I dropped out. So then I decided that since I couldn't stay in college, that I had to have an education, and I knew the right people. I knew a man named Mr. Arthur A. Schomburg, who was the curator of the Schomburg Library in New York. You all heard about that. And I would be sitting in there at the big round table and educating myself through the 10,000 books in the Schomburg collection. And whenever I got stuck, Mr. Schomburg would come over and give me a helping hand. And sometimes as we sat there, J.A. Rogers would come in. You all know about J.A. Rogers. Rogers would come in and sit next to me, so I had teachers like Arthur A. Schomburg, J.A. Rogers, and Dr. Hubert Henry Harrison, who is a black scholar that you probably never heard of. And the only reason you never heard of him was because he was black. If he were a white man, they'd have monuments built to him all over the country. Now, here's what I'm leading up to. When I was a boy down in Aiken, South Carolina, at Sunday school, I was taught that God created the white man as the superior race. And he, after the flood, when Noah was celebrating the end of this great deluge, he got drunk and took off all of his clothes and doing the striptease. And one of his sons, named Ham, thought that this was really funny, and he started laughing. And God looked down from heaven and said, I will not tolerate this disrespect for parents. So he turned Ham black and shipped him off to Africa, and he doomed Ham and all of his descendants to be hewers of wood and drawers of water for their more fortunate brothers. In other words, Africa was of no importance in world history because it was settled by an accursed race. And I got this story in church. When I went to school, I got the same story. And then I would go to church and the preacher would get up and ask us to sing a hymn, "Oh Lord, bleach us out whiter than snow that we may enter into the kingdom of heaven." And then I say to myself, I don't think I'm going to make it. Then they had another one. You can have all the world, but just give me Jesus. And I began to have the idea that there was something wrong with this. I couldn't imagine that everybody else had a history, but only the African people didn't have one. And then I began to study the theory of evolution. And the Bible, the way the Bible has been corrupted by white folks, you get the idea that the human race started out being white, and that the superior type of human being is a white man, and the yellow people and the brown people and the red people, they are a little bit lower, but the black man is the low man on the totem pole. He's the nobody. So I said to myself, I know there's something wrong with this. So I got up to Harlem and heard Dr. Harrison lecture and heard J.A. Rogers give lectures, and I went and studied with Schomburg, and they began to tell me what to read and what to study. And then I found out that the first human beings were not white folks, they were black people, because the human race started in Africa millions of years ago. And these black people were the first members of the human race, and some of them wandered into Europe and got bleached out white, and some of them wandered into Asia and got bleached out yellow, and some of them wandered into America and got bleached out red. But the original man was the black man. And then I found out another thing, that in these these people wrote their own histories, and the Christians say that God is an oversized man. Their image of God is a big man. These ancient people in Africa said that the first God was a woman. They said because in the process of evolution, the female sex is the primary sex, and it comes first. So the woman must have become before the man. And if the first human being was made in the image of God, God must have been a woman. And there's a book out now by author named Merlin Stone, When God Was a Woman. Now, I began to study, and I found out that you go back and study the ancient history of Egypt, and especially the religion of ancient Egypt, and they had a Bible. I have a good English translation of it in 3 volumes in one, called The Theban Recension of the Book of the Dead. And in this, you take this Egyptian Bible and compare it with the King James Bible, which is popular among the Protestant denominations in the United States. And you study the Egyptian Bible and you study the Christian Bible. The Egyptian Bible goes back 10,000 years. The King James Bible only goes back about 300 years. The King James, I think it was about 1619. And then you study these 2 books and compare them, and you find out that the Christians took the whole Christian Bible, the Old Testament and the New Testament, out of the Egyptian Book of the Dead. So that if you want to go to the source, don't go to King James. Go to ancient Egypt, and you've got a Bible that's 10,000 years older than anything that these Christians have. Now, after studying this, I decided to do some research and writing, and after dropping out of college, I would work on a job in the day and go to the library and study at night. In those days, they kept the libraries open until 11 o'clock at night, so that if you couldn't go to school, you could go to the library. Nowadays, they close, sometimes the library closes early, so if you wait, you're not going there. I had the good fortune to be born before there was any radio and before there was any television, so I had to learn to read, write, and count. Today, with television and radio, you have students going through college, graduating with a degree, and then they can't even write their own name. There was a University of Iowa, a student who was a football player. He graduated with a BA after his name. He was planning to be a professional football player. He had an accident and broke one of his feet, so he had to take a job as a parking lot attendant. And then when he signed the job application, he misspelled his own name. This is what you have going on today. Now, here's what I wanted to say. According to the King James Version of the Bible, if you go to a Protestant church, you find a big Bible there, and in the back of it, they have the chronology of Archbishop Usher of the 16th century. An Irish archbishop of the 16th century, and he tells you how old the world is according to the King James Version of the Bible. And he tells you that God created the earth in the year 4004 BC. And I began to study the history of Africa, particularly the history of Ethiopia and Egypt. And I found out that the Egyptians built the Great Pyramid over 1,000 years before the earth was created. And then I ran across another biblical scholar, the Vice Chancellor, the Reverend Professor Lightfoot, Vice Chancellor of Cambridge University, and he improved on Usher. He says God created the world in the year 4004 BC on September the 22nd,